everything. You have to work a lot with sense, also because you cannot talk to them. Okay, you have to do this because they don't understand it. So you have to find other ways how to convince people that you're not a threat, that you want to be helpful for them. But then, of course, later when you do education more, when you learn more, you work in hospitals, you have more people who are very aware. They do regular operations. So it's a different kind of work you do and where you specialize at the end. But I think for me it was always also interesting the face of when people were dying. This is, for a lot of people, they were very, very scared of that.
Hello and welcome to the podcast From Noise to Sound, presented from Haiselu. I'm Dimitrios Marinous, and as I promised, I'm trying to bring you inspiring personalities who actually have a focus on their segment, and I would be very much excited if you support this initiative and subscribe in Spotify, in YouTube, but also in LinkedIn, where I will be able to give you some insights, also in statistics, some articles, and so on, most frequently. So today I'm very much excited for my guest. She is actually a healthcare grand dame, so have it in my head. She is actually very successful on what she done. She's already having created companies in healthcare. She has done all the pyramid of the healthcare segment from the bottom to the top. And I actually would like to hear this story from her as well and share it with you. That was the main motivation at the beginning. And I couldn't be more excited that she's today with us. Hello, Barbara.
Hello, Dimi. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Barbara. Barbara Radtke, she's actually working a lot intensively the last years in healthcare. I'm very much interested to hear from your side. I mean, what actually, from your perspective, what actually moved you in this segment from the beginning?
Actually, it was not really my first choice when I started to get in healthcare. It was more like I was looking for a job, and there was an announcement in the newspaper that someone was looking, an elderly home was looking for a helper for a few months. So I went in this elderly home and did a practicum there, and I got inspired, not by how they treated these people. I was inspired more to get to know more about medicine, about the complexity of human body, I was interested then to learn more. So actually I started then my first profession as a nurse.
As a nurse, actually, it's one of the jobs, I think, it's one of the most difficult jobs to do when you really have been to a hospital and you've seen the work that these people are actually doing. It's very hard, and not only from the physical perspective, but also from the mental one. And I think that's a very big challenge. And I was wondering, how do you tackle this balance between the mental struggle, let's say, you have to endure as a nurse, but also the physical. I mean, you have to do with the patient, help the patient practically, but also empathically be helpful with him, but also be present while you're doing so.
I think this is something with you build while you grow and with the experience you get. I mean, when I started, I was 21 and I was, let's say, just a young lady with no experience in that field. And in the beginning, it was very difficult because when you treat dementia people, when you treat people who have forgotten everything, you have to work a lot with sense, also because you cannot talk to them. Okay, you have to do this because they don't understand it. So you have to find other ways how to convince people that you're not a threat, that you want to be helpful for them. But then, of course, later when you do education more, when you learn more, you work in hospitals, you have more people who are very aware. They do regular operations. So it's a different kind of work you do and where you specialize at the end. But I think for me it was always also interesting the phase of when people were dying. This is for a lot of people, they were very, very scared of that. But for me, this was so interesting to see this process when you could see that this transition when they start to go, and how the family is reacting, if there is a family, how this dynamic went at the end. For me, this was actually one of the most interesting phase which I have ever experienced in healthcare.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I mean, usually ourselves, we experience it in very private life, but then the experiences on top, in professional life and every week or daily, perhaps, it's definitely a completely different experience that changes you as a person. So for me, it's also interesting. I mean, you shifted from nurse to entrepreneur. This is not something very common, and I think that's why I find it very inspiring to your story. So how did you, when was this eureka moment where you said, you know what, I can do it better, and I can build, a company and try it? And where do you find the courage for that? See, because being an entrepreneur it's not something that you're born with it. You need some courage for that.
Yeah, actually, it was not something I was looking for, I have to say. I was quite a few years. I was employed in different companies. I did also further education. I was a teacher for nurses. I was in management in hospitals. And then I also had kids, 3 kids. And there was one day one of my kids got very ill. So we had to go very often to the hospital. It was a very difficult situation. And we realized that with the normal home care organization was very difficult to manage. So, and actually this was my trigger point where I said, okay, I want to do something different. I want to do something better. I want to do a private home care company. And actually, I had no clue about anything. I could not even read the balance. I was not educated for numbers, statistics, and whatever. I was just a good nurse, and I had friends, and I had trust, and I tried. Actually, it was the moment which I founded the company was a bit difficult because we just bought the house and I had 3 little kids. So actually it was a bit difficult to start. But in a way, I was just convinced that I want to try. And I had support from my family. This was really important because, the first year I had really no income. So I put everything what I earned back in the company to make it sustainable. And so everything started. My entrepreneurship started 2009 and until today, exactly. So this was the start. I was, as a young mother, I became entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, yeah. Well, exactly. That's what I can speak also from my experience in the entrepreneurship. Sometimes, to start a company, and I've heard it also, in some other discussions, you have to have a little bit of naivety. Mm-hmm. You should not be able to calculate all risk, because if you see all the risk, it's actually very scary sometimes. So you don't do it.
Exactly.
So I think it's natural that you couldn't see and then you jump in. But I think these elements, as you mentioned, that you had your family, for example, or you have your friends and you have the support. If you couldn't read the balance sheet, it's technical. It comes. You will always learn it, but it's important that you have this back help, let's say, somehow that is not going to drown. And it's also very important, as you mentioned, that I could do it better. And this feeling, I could do it better, when you have a problem and you see that someone cannot solve it, and I could do it better. So it's
or maybe I could do it different.
Oh, different.
It's
exactly.
Maybe not better, because I am sure that what the other companies did was good, but it was not what we needed. So, exactly. So I was actually, and I think a lot of startups, they are built because someone has a need and there is no solution of it, or someone is really pissed off of something which is not going to work properly.
Absolutely.
So I think these two main reasons I perceived from a lot of startups, this triggered them to build something new.
Mm-hmm. So I want just to touch point a little bit to something you mentioned before. I mean, one thing is, of course, the naivety to start, of not knowing everything. The other thing you mentioned is you were before a nurse and you have seen struggles, you have seen death, you have seen ill people, and that had an impact in your mindset. Did it help when you being an entrepreneur to be a bit more resilient?
I'm not sure if it has to do with the profession as a nurse. I think in every entrepreneurship, you need a character to be a little bit stubborn. And also you need that you are willing to suffer a bit. Because entrepreneurship is a difficult story, because it's not like, oh, you have an idea and then your company is already for millions worth and you have all the investors who are waiting to buy you. I think entrepreneurship is also a very lonely process, especially in the beginning, because you're alone. You have to look for potential proof of market. You have to find people who believe in you. And especially when the business is growing slowly, you have to hire people, you make mistakes, you hire the wrong people, you lose money, whatever. I mean, you're from the organizing the laptop for everyone till you do negotiation with potential customers. So it's like you're a bit an all-rounder. And it's not like you have from the beginning a secretary who is organizing everything for you. And I think this is something successful entrepreneurs, they need this kind of skills to roll their sleeves on and say, okay, I don't know if I will be successful, but I will try at least, and I will do my best, and I will try to make it as good as possible. And I will have the strength, even if it's difficult, to get another try and to make it better and to solve the problem. Because it's always your name, because you're the head of this company. And if there is a trouble, it's you. It's not your boss. It's not someone else. It's you. So this is also a big motivation.
Yeah, and the ego. And it's the ego behind it.
Make it good, yeah.
I mean, it's your ego that's plays sometimes. As you mentioned, you don't have a secretary all the time there. There's actually someone serves you on that, or you have someone on your side and say, I'll support there. It's your ego that you have to play with and put your ego down and roll your sleeves up, as you mentioned, which is not always so easy. But I think, and you don't learn entrepreneurship. I mean, I think that is also another lesson, I think. I mean, I took this lesson as well. I'm pretty confident you as well. No matter where you go and study and whatever you do, entrepreneurship, you learn it on the field, periods.
Exactly.
But what is the hardest lesson you learned there? And I mean, which actually not only from the entrepreneurship side, but also personally actually moved you. I mean, something that defined you also as well on this struggle.
I think every person has different struggles. It also has to do a lot how you function as a person and what is difficult for you. So I'm not very much a person who likes to be on stage, and I'm not a good salesperson. So this was...
Well, you did very well for that.
So for me, this was actually the biggest hurdle I had to come over. And this later, I had the big help because I had a very good mentor, a woman, which was very successful. And she was completely the opposite of me. And she helped me along the way to she really pushed me in some contest and some Swiss Economic Forum, etc., etc. And she said, okay, go on stage, make your speech. And I was really terrifying. I nearly died on this stage because it's really not me. But this is something I overcame this fear, and I said, okay, I try. And after a while, I got more confident. I got more, you learn, you grow with everything. So it's what maybe is at the beginning a hurdle is maybe 2 years later is something different. Like
the skill,
exactly the skill changes, and then there come new challenges which you have never thought about. You have to hire when you have a lot of people. You have to structure these people. You have to find new markets. You have potential problems maybe with customers, something goes wrong, or people make mistakes which are really bad or whatever. So you're always fixing some problems, and it helps you to learn.
I also think the same. At the end of the day, that's the main focus as well. I mean, that's the fun part of entrepreneurship, that you learn. I mean, apart from the struggle, you learn over that. So at some point, I mean, you had your company. I mean, and with your company, I mean, you were very broad in the healthcare segment. I mean, this is the first step. So you meant first step from, I would say, employee, nurse, and then you get an entrepreneur, which is actually a very big step, I mean, to do. And then you established yourself. And how does someone go from that to be in the board of directors of a company or a hospital like big like Inselspital at the moment? I mean, how do you come across that? Did you do something that you searched about it, that it came across your table, or how someone does something like that?
Yeah, I think it came a little bit with networking. As I said, I'm not very much into the small talks on the events. My motto is always less is more. So I like to have less people, but I have more contact with. So in every education I have, I maybe pick 2 or 3 nice people I still had contact, and I want to. And then, of course, I was always interested in board, in strategy. And then I also did some education in that. I was also after the HSG, I did some more in INSEAD, etc. And then actually the board in Insel, a headhunter brought my CV, which I did not even know. So one day I got a phone call from Insel, from the director of the board, and said, listen, we got your CV and we're looking for someone. Would you like to come for an interview? And I was completely surprised because I have never thought about that. And this actually was 6 years ago. And this gave me a great insight, of course, in a very interesting big company, which I really learned a lot. And I also think with my experience I had from the field, I could also give them some benefits from real life, what people suffer maybe.
That's what we usually see in the board of directors. Usually in the board of directors, people who are very good established, but they don't know the business bottom up. Like, it's being a nurse, let's say, and knowing all the levels of problems. Where can it be from nurse management, middle management, owner of such healthcare company, and so on and so forth. So let's say the third parties. So if you look a little bit now in Switzerland, let's say the healthcare segment, what would you say from your experience the top 3, I would say, challenges that you see right now, or perhaps that you see that coming from your perspective in the healthcare segment?
Yeah. I think there are different topics which challenges are coming from. If you look in the ambulance sector, people live longer and they want to stay home. I think this is a big trend, which will be a big question also. How can this be paid? How can this be organized? I mean, there is one company I founded a few years ago to hire caring relatives, and they get paid. So this was a big success.
I can understand.
And of course, this creates also other problems now, because this is now a huge growing market, and this is now, it can cause a lot of costs now for the healthcare system. So everything which there is a need and you try to solve the problem, of course, there is something which creates another problem maybe.
Disrupts.
I think in the hospital environment, I think that the costs is a big problem, because the tarife have not have stayed stable for many, many years. So all the innovation who came and all the renovation, all the buildings, etc., what a hospital has to do, they are not be seen in the tarife yet just now. And also there is a change of behavior. The new generation has different attitude than the doctors 40 years ago. So the hospitals also have to change their ways of how to treat people, how to employ people. And labor, I mean, it's everywhere a big topic. It's difficult to find good people. It's difficult to keep them.
Yeah.
The younger generation, they are more sensible for work-life balance. They don't want to work 50 hours a week anymore. It's a big challenge to find a good regulation for this system. And also, I mean, we have a lot of hospitals here. I think not a lot of countries have so many hospitals.
Really? Is it the case?
In this little space. So I think there will be, in the next few years, there will be maybe some discussions about bringing centers together or whatever. So I think it's the healthcare is at the moment in a big, big change. And there are many challenges faced on regulations, on costs, and on labor.
On labor, yeah. I mean, I'm coming from the IT side, and I can say this is exactly the same. I don't know at the moment the segment who says, we're very comfortable with people. I mean, we have enough, thank you, especially in Switzerland. And which actually has these two effects. If you cannot find the people, then the costs come very high. And then you cannot retain. I mean, I don't know. Is in healthcare, I mean, healthcare is also critical. It's not like in IT that you can really use external or you go out of the country and so on and so forth. And in healthcare, as I mentioned, is critical. Did you see a way of hedging this problem at the moment, or are there any ways to do that?
Yeah, I think there is, I mean, I can only talk about my experience. I saw that, especially in the ambulant sector, when people want to stay longer home, there are multiple problems, because if you have someone in the family, let's say parents who are getting old, you have to look for someone. Then either if you are a person who has a very good network here, then you're super lucky. If this network is also willing to support, then you are super, super lucky. But I think most of the people, I mean, family structures, they change a lot. They changed a lot in the last years. People have jobs, very demanding jobs. They don't have they don't have time to take care of the. So then it's this new trend also that someone from abroad lives at this people's house.
Yeah.
So of course this can be a good solution, and so this has to be figured out how this is possible, the right person, etc. But these people are missing in their country.
Yeah.
And I think this is like, okay, these people from Poland, they come to Switzerland, and these people then, because they earn here more,
sure.
But then they abandon their families there, and they are also missing in their healthcare system there. So it's like a movement.
It's a chain of problems.
Exactly, which I don't think is very healthy. So, and I think we here in Switzerland, we have options for people. They want to do something sustainable. They want to do something which has a meaning. Even more people have this desire that it's not all about money. It's also about, I want to do something which has a purpose. So I think if we can make this job to take care of someone a bit more meaningful, I think this has to do with the attitude. And I think it's a beginning that caring relatives are paid, but I think it's more than that. I think all our thoughts has to be changed a bit if we want to solve the problem. It's
intrinsic. Let's say you should.
It's kind of intrinsic, but it should also fit in a way that you can live,
Culturally, you mean?
Exactly.
Culturally,
I think that the time is over that all the ladies then, of course, they have to get married and then they take care for the parents. It's like
time's over.
The ladies today, they have good education, they are fit, they are agile, they want to do.
And I don't know,
and
between
also
us,
the guys,
I don't know if we as men would like to have this old model as well. I strongly doubt.
Exactly. So it has to be something which, okay, if someone says, look, for me, this is important because for me, my family is important, or maybe another person is important, but it has to be, it has to be in a way honored that this is it's not just, okay, she has time, she can do it, or he can do it. It should be like more, like in the southern countries, it's very different. It's more natural that you take care of each other. And I think the more northern you go, it's more
distant,
and also it's a little bit more delegated.
I know. I can say from my experience also, my family are coming from Greece, from the south, so it's always it has both sides. It can be also a struggle because you're bounded on one side, but on the other side, of course, it's honoring also the family, as you say. It's both sides. Mm-hmm. So for me, just as clarification here, just the home office trend that we had after Corona helped a little bit this situation. Mm-hmm. In general, is it something that now that the younger generation can stay at home to work and take care of elderly people who are on the other floor or downstairs or whatever? Did it help the situation, or it actually didn't help at all?
I don't know if it helped really that more people got into this care, because I think home office, if you do home office, you should do your home office properly, and you have to be in a good setup that you can really work when you are at home. True. And you have a good setup. So it's like if you do home office with little kids, it's also very difficult. But I think in general, home office can help maybe to combine a job better. So if you have a job which has interaction with people, but also includes emails, etc. So if you take a day, just do some paperwork, of course, it's easy to do at home, and you can do some sport. It's like there is some way to get healthy on a long run. I think if this can be combined, it would be good.
It would be good. All right. Now, you have seen also small companies, I mean, your company in respect, for example, to Inselspital. I mean, there's two different worlds. So how do you think technology here, well, now we have this, trend of AI, and of course, I'm sure you also come across, I mean, there's a lot of startups and ideas about that, but also assuming a hospital as a company like Inselspital, where you have the problem with finding people, the right people, and so on and so forth. Now, of course, you tend to go to technology, so technology might help us. Do you see a way out through technology, or is technology something that will solve problems there? Do you use something that already AI-wise in healthcare that you know and say that's sexy enough?
I think you have to make a difference between startups and KMU and big tanker. I mean, Inselspital is a great company which has a lot of innovation through the Forschung and through like people who have very deep knowledge. And of course, they all try to do technology-wise next steps. Also, it's interesting to publish. You know, this is a learning place. It's a universal hospital, so learning and education is a big step. What I have seen, and I think this will be, of course, the future. I think AI and all this artificial learning is really a great tool to combine. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to do a skin checkup. Mm-hmm. So it was very difficult to find a dermatologist, because they are all booked. So then I found a praxis in Zurich, which they have a body skin scanner. So I said, okay, this is interesting. I want to try. So I booked an appointment there. And then I was there standing like, at the airport when you are in this middle of this. And then there was this, I think there were more or less 50 cameras or 50. And then you had maybe 10 seconds. They took all the pictures. And then you saw yourself in 3D, and every little Muttermal you could see was exactly localized, could see if it's a good one or if there is potential something bad. And the best thing is, if I go next year, it can compare.
Yeah.
And of course, at the end, the doctor also made a double check to see. But this is, for me, I think, the future. I think we will need AI to make a lot of things more information-based, which can help also to give the people time back really for the people interaction.
Not only, but I was reading, of course, a study. Now, the X-rays, for example, AI can read X-rays much better than a doctor at the moment, because they are trained much faster. Mm-hmm. I mean, in respect to a human, of course, at the end of the day, a human has to check again, and as you mentioned, take the decision. But this is, I could 100% be on your side. We said, technology is going this direction. This should be the case, that we also as humans say, I want a second opinion, and this should be not only from a second doctor, but from the technology perhaps. Yeah, I wanted to take you a little bit back on the discussion you had before. I mean, you obviously had to climb all this mountain of entrepreneurship, as I mentioned before, and it was different times. I mean, the hypes of startups and in venture capitals and whatever we talked today was probably not there as well, 100%. And for the new world, I mean, you were also a woman. Have you struggled as a woman there? I mean, have you seen something that you blocked you, like, gender-wise? And of course, you said also before you had 3 kids on the same time, of course. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, my kids are now 25 is the oldest, 20 is the youngest. So my struggles when they were small was 15 years ago. So the times were also a little bit different than today. But of course, I mean, I was more or less in my old environment. I was the only one who really worked full time. I forgot sometimes the name of the teacher of my kids. I forgot sometimes to give them the super znuni in the morning. And if sometime there was a birthday or I had to bring a cake at school, I bought the cake and I did some decoration just because otherwise it was not possible. But the difficulty was more like I tried to make everything perfect. I sometimes when I was at work, I felt guilty because I'm not at home. And sometimes when I was at home, I felt guilty because I have to be at work. So I think this was my own problem, was not made by someone else. And I think when I had this mentor, which was for me a very good lesson, because I mean, this lady never had kids and she was very much on business driven. So she gave me really a push to say, okay, listen, you have now 2 choices. Either you do part-time entrepreneurship and you're a part-time mother, or you really want to go into that and your kids can also be proud of you. So it's like, and sometimes when we had the discussion, I felt like, oh, sorry, you don't understand and you don't understand. And then she said, I'm not here to understand. I'm here to help you. And this was for me a big learning to overcome this idea of not fulfilling all the rules. And there I could say, okay, now I do it. And even later, sometimes I felt a little bit like, did I give to my kids everything what they would have got, maybe whatever. But when I talk to my kids today, we have still a very good relationship. And I can feel they always say, we are very proud that you have done, etc. And then I feel, okay, lucky me.
Yeah, you balance. So you balance it very nicely out. I mean,
it's not. But of course, I mean, time for yourself. You can forget. It's also difficult for a relationship because But I mean, you always have to do choices in life.
Yeah.
And I think the important thing is that you do the choice you want and not what you feel like other people want for you. And even if you're lonely with this choice, but if you are sure it's the right choice for you, I think people can feel it around you. They can feel if you are convinced about something, if you are convinced about your product or about your job, what you're doing. And if they feel it, they trust you. And then they also invest in you, either time-wise or with advising or with money if you need, or with as a board or whatever. It's like, but people have to be convinced that you are fully in.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, then it's for no one good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's the biggest, the most wrong decision that you can make as an entrepreneur, to be entrepreneur, just to say that I'm a CEO of my own company. I mean, if you just go down that road and down this trip, you just already lost. I think I can say also from my experience, I think the most interesting thing is just that you build something and for yourself, and you recognize yourself in whatever this is what you build, because independent if it's as Tesla or something small, it doesn't matter. It should be you.
Exactly.
And
yeah, it's your DNA. It's your DNA should be seen in. I have never forgotten a very interesting moment when I had my first home care company. There was an urgent call of someone and said, my husband, he's dying. We need some caregivers for tonight. And can you come? And I think it was a Friday around 9. And I thought, no, come on. Let me have a little bit of time at home. And then I said, okay, now. And then I said, okay, I come. So I went to this family. So there was this husband there. And then he looked at me and then he said, this is the name of your company. Who is the owner of this company? And then I say, it's me. And then he said, okay, that's a good sign. It's Friday, 9:00. You're the owner. You are here. I trust you. So we did not have to make a contract. Everything was clear because he was kind of a person. He said, okay, if we shake hands, everything will be fine. And I think this is what I just mentioned. It's like, if you go the extra mile, if you do that, what maybe other people would say, now it's Friday, maybe I come tomorrow, but today it's my work-life balance is I need a rest. It can work, but sometimes it works better if you just do this little extra, which people appreciate very much.
And it is a part of entrepreneurship. Otherwise, you're an employee. Exactly, I would say.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
I fully get it. So this last question from my side to you, Barbara. Now you have all this experience, and of course, there's people who listen to us. I mean, some of them students, some young professionals, others are professionals who actually had enough of their jobs. There's everything. What kind of advice would you give them? I mean, perhaps also reflecting back to Barbara 20 years, 15 years before, or to someone who wanted to start right now?
I think maybe two advice would be good. One advice, what was good for me, in all the companies I have founded, I always founded it myself with my own money. Yeah. I never had in early stage big investors, etc. And I think in none of the companies I wanted to have external shareholders, which it could have been much easier for me to get a salary. But the freedom, if the company is yours, even if it's in the beginning small and you have to suffer a bit, but the freedom to make the decision which is right for you and not just to fix numbers to please someone, this I found is a big, big gift. And you also can create it the way you want it. And then it means also this DNA at the end, it's really you. And this is your product and this is your company. And then, of course, later, if you want to grow it and scale it, of course, if you, then there is another story. But I think don't let in too early too many people because you lose something. Yeah, and I think, and the second advice was, for me, was very, very helpful, especially when I was not experienced as an entrepreneur, to have someone as a mentor, to someone who is not included, maybe not a board, not a friend, someone who gives you very brutal a mirror sometimes, who said, okay, this is, you can do better, or things like that, because this should be a trust relationship, but also a challenge. And I think for me, this helped me a lot to grow. And I think this was a good way to explore also other ways of thinking from someone I could trust.
Mm-hmm. Now, Barbara, thanks very much. I wouldn't change anything from what you said. I mean, I'm from both points. I mean, the first one, absolutely. I mean, I also believe the same. My investing your own money in the beginning. First of all, you have to pain yourself, so you take decisions right, and having someone to reflect is always absolutely vital, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're very lonely, as you mentioned, on what you do. You need this reflection point and this brutal truth sometimes, because you will struggle with life situations and so on and so forth. So Barbara, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for being here. It was really refreshing to get your points for healthcare. Really, really amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Timmy. It was really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I hope you all guys enjoyed Barbara Radtke. I definitely enjoyed it as well. Please don't forget to subscribe, as I mentioned, in Spotify, YouTube, and also follow us in LinkedIn, where we will post more often also interesting articles. Also, you hear also the updates from every podcast as well. Really, really much appreciate, and I hope you see us in the next episode of From Noise to Sound. Thank you very much, and have a good time until then.